My friend from college told me a harrowing story that happened to her and her friends in high school. She is from Buffalo, New York, and often went on camping trips to local upstate campgrounds. When she was a senior, she and 4 of her friends went to a campsite fitted with rows of cabins on the water that people could rent. As the sun went down, the girls noticed that their neighbors a few cabins down, a group of guys similar in age, were playing music and grooving around the campfire drinking beers. One of the guys asked them all if they wanted to join. When they got over there and started hanging with the guys, everything seemed completely normal, and they were having a fun time. As the night progressed, one of the guys there started to get blackout drunk, and eventually pulled out a revolver that he said belonged to his dad. He started waving it around and playing with it. This freaked everyone out, his friends included. Eventually, he started pointing the gun to his head and laughing, while his friends were yelling at him to put it away, and how that wasn't funny. The girls at this point were fairly disturbed, and told the guys that they should get back to their cabin and said their goodbyes. When they got back to their cabin, they all talked about how freaky that was, and expressed concern for the drunk guy. They then moved on to other topics of conversation, and forgot about it for the time being. A few hours later, sometime in the middle of the night, they heard a loud bang coming from the direction of their neighbor's cabin. Shortly after this, a brigade of cop cars showed up at the scene. One officer came to my friend's cabin and started asking them questions about the cabin they visited earlier that night. When my friend asked the officer what happened, he explained that the kid had shot himself in the head in front of his friends. They weren't able to discern if it was suicide or accidental. My friend to this day still has PTSD over this incident and explained that she rarely goes camping anymore. Back in 2016, my friends and I for the longest time had been itching to go camping at our local camping site in the Los Padres National Park in Southern California. When we found the perfect weekend to go to that didn't interfere with any of our work schedules, we set the date. 3 days before the trip, we found out we were going to get hit by the El Niño rainstorm. We, being the type of dudes that we are, didn't care if we got hit by the storm while camping. So we packed up our cars and made the 45-minute drive to the campsite. The campsite was a family-friendly one, where there were about 100 camping lots that circled the clearing in the forest. We found the perfect spot that was underneath huge, thick trees that would help block as much rain as possible, and it helped out that the restrooms were only 30 yards away. As soon as we got to our spot, we took advantage of the afternoon sky being cleared for the moment, and we rushed to set up our spot. The layout that we did was that we pitched our tents close by, where our tent doors were only 6 feet apart. The reason why we did this is that to combat the rain, I brought a 30-foot by 30-foot thick blue canopy tarp that I threw over to cover us from the rain above and from the rain that would be running through the ground. It was a genius move on my part, but whenever you would walk around our tent, you would be making so much noise from crunching the plastic tarp. Hours passed and we were all around the campfire. It was late into the evening, and this was the first time that I noticed that there were barely any other campers. They were mainly camping in their RVs like the fake campers they were. In my honest opinion, they were the smart ones, unlike my friends and I that were sleeping in 2 small tents, with our only protection being the blue tarp. I was getting tired from a long day of work, and I decided that I was going off to knock out. My friends followed my lead as well. The way that the sleeping arrangements were was that I had my friend Ryan sleeping in my tent, and Aaron and Sean were sleeping in theirs. Before I called it a night, I whispered to Ryan and told him, "I'm going to prank call Sean and Aaron, but I'm not going to say anything." Ryan smiled as I dialed my friends up. I called them on restricted, and Sean's phone started to ring off. Both of them, being the way that they are, got timid very easily, as they said to one another, "Who's calling you this late in the night?" "I don't know. They called me unrestricted." "Are you going to answer?" "Of course not." Ryan and I were holding in our laughter as they ignored our call. I decided to do it one more time. Once their phone started to ring, they started to freak out once again, and they said, "Who is it this time?" "Same person, I think. I'm going to answer." As they did answer, Sean said in a very shaking tone, "Hello?" Ryan and I had to hold in our laughter as we kept as quiet as possible, not wanting to make any noises that would give off that it was us. I held the phone close to my mouth as I began to breathe heavily in a murderous way. I ended the call, and just hearing them freak out the way they did was making my night even funner. Me, being the idiot that I am, called them one more time, and this time Sean picked up the phone immediately and said in a tough voice, "Look, whoever this is better stop. I'm about to call the cops if you keep on calling. This is not a threat." Ryan and I looked at one another as we, at the same time, began to fake moans so loud and immediately started to bawl out in laughter. Aaron and Sean were so mad at us for pulling this prank on us, and they were cursing us out. Me, finally calming down from laughing so loudly, told the boys, "Good night, I will have pancakes ready in the morning." Since I fell asleep relatively easily, I was out in a matter of minutes, while Ryan, Aaron, and Sean were up for a while longer. I was the first of my friends to wake up in the morning. I had the pancakes already cooking by the time that anyone else woke up. The smell of me cooking woke up my friends, and one by one, they got out of their tents. As we were eating, Aaron spoke up and said, "Hey Jay, the prank that you pulled last night went a little too far." "Yeah, you had us ready to run to our car and take off." I, feeling a bit guilty, apologized and said, "Sorry guys, my bad." "Yeah, it's one thing to prank call us like that, but then to walk around our tent and then go inside it in the middle of the night is totally out of limits," Sean said. Me, not knowing what they were talking about, said, "What do you guys mean?" "Come on, still with the jokes. You were the one that was walking around our tent and you walked in?" Ryan spoke up and said, "That wasn't Jay who was walking around. I thought that was you two getting your revenge on us for scaring you." "That wasn't us doing that. It was you two." So to explain, after I fell asleep, about an hour had passed when Ryan, Sean, and Aaron were still up, and all was quiet in the forest. The sounds of footsteps were heard stepping on our blue tarp that was on the ground. At first, my friends thought that it could have been just a forest animal wandering around, but the heavy footsteps were a dead giveaway that it was a person. As they described, the person was walking all around our tents, making constant figure eights. The person would place their fingers on the tent's fabric walls to run them up and down. The footsteps finally stopped after a couple of minutes, right in between our tent's doors. The three of them were already having their hearts pounding out of their chest. It was silent for a long minute until the sound of the tent's zipper being slid open. As Aaron says, the tent's door was only opened halfway, but it was too dark to see anything. But in the darkness, both Sean and Aaron saw the silhouette of a man's face being popped into the tent to look at both of them. Aaron and Sean faked being asleep the entire time, but they kept their eyes locked onto the man. The man then opened the tent fully and walked inside the tent, just standing at the entrance. The man didn't say a word or do anything. He just watched the both of them laying in their sleeping bags. After their longest minute ever, the man just took his steps out of the tent, walking away, disappearing into the night. The entire time that this was happening, Sean and Aaron thought that it was either me or Ryan doing this, and Ryan thought that it was Aaron or Sean doing this. Back to us arguing back and forth at the breakfast table, we were interrupted by a man walking to our campsite. The man approached us and said, "Good morning, boys. How did the four of you sleep last night?" This man spoke in a smoker's voice as if he's been doing that for all of his years of being alive. He wore a dirty, sweat-stained white t-shirt that looked more gray at this point, and his blue jeans looked as if they had never been taken off from his pants. He smelt like liquor, not a good sign at 8 in the morning, and his words were just mumbling around. We didn't say a word to this guy. He then asked us if we had any cigarettes to spare him. I said that we didn't smoke, and he said, "Oh well, if you boys want to visit me in my RV, just stop by any time." The man continued to walk away toward the restrooms, and as he was done using it, he walked back to our campsite. He didn't say anything this time, but he looked at us and gave us a nearly toothless smile, and he walked back to his RV. I took note of his RV as it was the only RV that stuck out as being dirty and more run down than the others. We quickly summed up the man as the person who was walking around our tents last night, and Sean and Aaron now remembered that they smelt liquor from the person who was standing in their tent. We all agreed that we would keep an extra eye out on this guy, and if he did spend another night, we would most likely report him to the park rangers if he tried anything else. When it was around lunchtime now, the man came back, not to use the restroom, but just to talk to us. So, are any of you boys interested in buying an RV? You all can go check it out right now and see if you want to buy it. I don't need it anymore since my wife left me. Just check out the inside of the RV. No, we are good, sir, I said with a visibly threatening tone. The man seemed to notice this and he walked away. The man did end up leaving a few hours before sunset, but the entire time that he was there, he kept glancing at us. The man had his RV about 50 yards away from us, and I noticed that he had a restroom right next to his RV. Why did he make an effort in walking over to our campsite to use our restroom? Also, why did he even use ours if RVs come with restrooms installed in them? Whatever the man wanted, we were just glad that we were about to enjoy the rest of our weekend. Every summer I go camping at the same campsite with my grandparents. I was probably 10 years old when this happened, so I don't remember everything. This campsite had separated showers and bathrooms for both male and female campers. One night I decided to go take a shower. My gran was a few camping spots over from ours, having a few drinks with friends, so I didn't want to pull her away. My grandpa couldn't take me to the showers, so I went alone. Fucking stupid, right? Anyway, as I was approaching the showers, I heard a man probably in his late 30s screaming many things to what seemed like two girls. It was late and it was pretty dark, so I would have had to get a closer look to see them. When I took a turn to the building, I saw the man that was probably the one yelling, waiting outside the girls' bathroom door. Me being an innocent tater-tot, I didn't think anything of it. I was walking towards the door that the man was standing by. I said, "Excuse me, sir, people are trying to sleep." Even as a child, I was pretty brave. But something about him made me feel like I had to run the other way. He turned to me and I finally saw what his face looked like. He was a black man with a scruffy beard, and he was wearing a black hood that covered his head. He laughed at me and put his hand on my shoulder. "I'm sorry, sweetie. I'll keep it down." After that, I rushed into the shower room. Once I closed the door and locked it, I guess he heard the lock turn because he whispered, "Fuck," and knocked on the door and asked if I could unlock it for him. I ignored it because I heard a whimper behind me. There was an older lady and a little girl who I guess was her daughter. The mother was holding on to her daughter in the corner. This made me very concerned. I asked her what was wrong. She said very, very quietly, "That man is trying to abduct us." She sobbed and hugged the girl. I told her that I will go get help. At first, she didn't want me to go near him again, but I told her that I know this campsite like the back of my hand, which I do. I think that guy didn't realize that there was another exit. I told her to stay here and lock the door after I leave. I ran to the front desk and told the lady working that a man was scaring two girls that are hiding in the bathroom. I could tell that she was terrified, but she tried to be calm with me. She called what I guess was the police, because a few minutes later I heard the sirens. I wasn't allowed to leave the office, but when I saw the police trucks leave, I saw the man in the back seat. He looked at me with an evil smile. My grandparents were notified, but they never said anything to me other than, "You probably just saved 2 lives today." I didn't really think about this story until now, many years later, because I just got a call today that my grandparents want to have a family gathering at the same campsite. I'm going to the campsite with them, and I hope I don't encounter a kidnapper this time.